Hi, I'm Chef Thomas Boemer from Revival and Corner Table Restaurants in Minneapolis and St. Paul. We're here in the kitchens of Distilled and Tribeca to demo our chicken and dumpling recipe. We're going to start with the biscuit dough here. 2 cups of bread flour. We're going to bring in some baking powder, a tablespoon, a teaspoon of baking soda, 2 teaspoons of salt, and I'm going to whisk those together to blend those dry ingredients. This is a very quick, very easy biscuit dough. Once all the dry ingredients are together and combined, we're going to bring in our butter to the bowl. So here we have 1 pound of butter cut. We're going to bring into the flour. I like to pre-cut the butter and have it chilled so the butter is all a uniform size. I'm going to cover each piece of butter with flour very delicately, and then I'm going to start to work the butter in with my hands. The only thing left to do to really bring this dough together is to add in 2 cups of buttermilk. And we're going to take a wooden spoon and just fold this together. Be careful not to overmix this. You want to see a little dry parts of the flour come through, maybe a little wetter parts, just like a cookie dough. We're going to move here to a silpat. We're just going to lightly flour and spread that flour out. And if you don't have a silpat at home, feel free to use parchment paper. Either of these work really well. And I just want to turn that over onto the sheet. And you can see the dough there is really fluffy. It's already alive and working and doing its thing. We're going to spread this out a little bit. Then we're going to lightly put on a parchment. And we're going to take our rolling pin here and spread out our biscuit dough. And then from here we're going to transfer back in our sheet. We'll transfer into the freezer. Allow this to set up a little bit. We'll cut it with a ring mold and place it on top like a lid for our soup. While our dough is in the freezer, we're going to move on to our chicken and gravy. This is really the heart of the dish. We're going to start very simply with a little bit of whole butter. I'm going to take about a 1/4 cup plus a tablespoon. We're going to be using this butter to form our roux, which is going to thicken our gravy. But at the same time, we're going to first use it to soften our vegetables. I'm going to put in my harder vegetables here, basic mirepoix, onion, carrots, and celery. Add a little bit of salt just to pull out some of the water of the vegetable, start to break it down a little bit. And then we're going to cover that to start that cooking process. And back here we also have a whole chicken cut into 10 pieces, seasoned with salt and pepper. We have our 1/4 of chicken stock and the butter and a little cream. After I've cooked this a little bit, really start to soften up those vegetables. We're going to come back with our onions. Add those in. We're going to cover that again. Give that a little time to cook. We want to cook the mirepoix for about 5 to 10 minutes, just till it gets tender and the onions tend to get slightly translucent. Now before we move on to the chicken, we're going to add flour to this mixture of butter and vegetables. We've added enough butter here. Now this is going to get dried out really quickly. You really want to get all the flour dissolved and worked into the butter. Now we're going to add the stock. Adding the stock a little bit of time allows you to really work in the lumps of flour, making sure you're not going to have any lumps of raw flour in the finished dish. Add a little bit more and incorporate. Wait for it to really fully thicken before you add more stock. Now we're going to add our final amount of chicken stock. And what we're left with is a very blonde gravy. This is going to be a great foundation for our chicken. Now to this pot, we're going to add our chicken. This is 10 pieces. So what we want to do is make sure the chicken is fully submerged, and we want to bring this up to a temp. Just wait to come up to a small bubble. We really don't want to bring it to a full boil. Once this comes up to temp, we're going to take this, put it in the oven, cook it at about 375 degrees for 45 minutes to an hour. What you're really looking for is for that chicken to just fall off the bone. It's been 45 minutes. We're going to check the chicken. So now our chicken is fully cooked. Before we're ready to pull the chicken, we're going to add 1 cup of heavy cream. You're going to cover that, allow it to come back up to a boil. Once the sauce is fully come together in that consistency, we're going to pull this off the heat, remove the chicken. That way we're going to pull it, bring it all back together. Then we'll be ready to plate. Now when pulling the chicken, you really want to make sure there's no bones, but you also don't want to break down the chicken too far, so it's like eating little pieces. You really want to have the integrity of that great, perfectly cooked chicken there, just like that. Once all the chicken is cooked, we're going to come back to the stove. This is a great opportunity to adjust some seasoning and make sure our consistency is where we want it. We've taken our biscuit dough out of the freezer. You don't want to freeze this solid unless you're planning to save it. You just want it cold enough to firm it up so we can cut it with a cutter. So we're going to start by spooning some of the chicken and the soup mixture into individual crocks. We want to bring it up about a ½ inch from the top, making sure we're leaving some room for our biscuit topping. We'll take our cutter head and just cut a round that's slightly smaller than the size of the opening. And we're just going to put that on top. Now from here we want to go into a 450-degree oven for 5 to 10 minutes until the crust is golden brown and fully cooked. It's been 5 to 10 minutes. We're going to go ahead and give these a check. And that is what I'm talking about. Looking for a nice even golden brown, and they should rise slightly from the top. So these are our chicken and dumplings. Come visit us at Revival and Corner Table in Minneapolis and St. Paul, Minnesota. Try one of our favorite recipes. Thank you for joining us.